Hello and welcome to the Gfinity Arena for round 4 of the V10 R League. There have already been wins for Red Bull, Aston Martin and R8G in what has been an enthralling day of racing. Our final match sees Suzuki Team JAESA take on the high-flying Yas Heat in a must-win encounter. Welcome to the V10 R League. Yes, I said it's a must-win encounter and a must-win, and actually an absolute win in terms of the talent on the desk tonight, are Hayden Gullis and George Morgan. Gentlemen, we've spent all day together.
Sorry.
Do you know what? It's too early to apologise. It's been a brilliant day. We've had 3 matchups already, Hayden. In terms of this one being a must-win, it definitely is, because in terms of Group A, it's really heating up.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've just watched one of 2 teams at the bottom trying to fight for their survival and, you know, get their series hopes alive. Now, this is 2 teams where, you know, Yas Heat, they've had a break week, you know, they're coming back into this, and since their break week, they've dropped down from the top of the table to 3rd, so they're going to want to get back on top. And you've got Suzuki, who want to keep their hopes alive. It's their last game for them and a last chance for them to get in that playoff place.
And George, the Mr. Commentating maestro, indeed, all the way from Wales. What have you enjoyed about today so far?
I think the drama, we've had certainly lots of it. Some very interesting moments where incidents and crashes have happened. I think obviously the stewards are, like I said earlier on, very, very busy today. But like I say, you know, these circuits that we've got on the calendar certainly do offer lots of opportunities for overtakes and battles and challenges. So it's exactly what V10 R League's all about.
Yeah, I can't wait to get into this last match of the day. And just before anyone says, it's an absolute pleasure to hang around with these gentlemen in the Gfinity Arena. Now, it may be round 4, but for those of you at home that might be watching the V10 R League for the first time, it is worth quickly giving you a rundown of the V10 format, as it's a little bit unique. And when I say a little bit, it's very unique indeed. We're going to be racing 2 circuits in our matchup today, with 2 formats of racing taking place. The first format of each track is the relay race, where drivers race one at a time, trying to complete 4 laps before the opposing team does. Drivers swap out after each lap, and the pit stop changeovers can be challenging, as we've seen in previous weeks. It's a technical race that requires a lot of team strategy, so look out for that tonight. Then we move on to the second race format of each track, the team race. This is an all-out 3v3 straight race to the finish line, with teams scoring points on their finishing positions. So that's how it's going to go down. But there's a lot of strategy and tactics used in this. We have got Yas Heat taking on Team Suzuki JAESA, as I say, for the last race of the day, Hayden. What do we need to know then for this team relay? And which team do you look on paper that seems stronger?
Unfortunately for Team Suzuki, I think Yas Heat are going to be the stronger one. They are pitched as one of the insane teams in this series. And yes, OK, they're down in the mid-section of that table, but they've missed the last week. They've got a game in hand. And the way that Suzuki's season's gone, they beat BMW, but then they lost to R8G, they lost to Williams. They're on the back foot. But, you know, maybe they can find form here today. There could be an upset. And I think we would all love to see that.
OK, well, let's look back at what happened last time we saw these 2 teams in action. First of all, Suzuki, who played out their rearranged matchup. And as we're watching here, a lot going on. Williams, a very strong team. But in terms of Suzuki and what they can offer, I mean, they're a unit. They have some brilliantly strong sim racing drivers as part of their roster. What do you like about them, George?
I like quite a various amount of things. I mean, obviously the fact that Alesi is in charge, I think, is obviously a big plus. But not only that, you've got experienced sim racers that have contested in the top end of things. Domenico Leveche, for example, competing for Ferrari in the F1 Esports Pro Championship in 2021. Dario Yamulo did the same for AlphaTauri as well. And then, of course, you've got Leonardo Di Alcamo as well, who has actually been part of the Ferrari esports package as well. So you've got plenty of huge talents here in this roster. So a lot to look forward to.
Just to confirm, that is the first time that we have seen that result. That's a 4-0 win to Williams, and that means a whitewash there, like a clean sweep, a 4-0, and no team likes that. So they'll be keen to put that behind them and get back in the points.
Yeah, they have a point to prove now. You know, they've been beaten 4-0, their first 4-0 loss of the series, and they don't want that to become a recurring theme. They're up against one of the big dogs, Yas Heat. It could be easy for them to potentially go for another 4-0 sweep, but, you know, they've got a point to prove. They want to get some points on the board, and, you know, they're going to need to get at least 3 points in order to give them a chance of getting into the playoffs.
Yeah, that's Group A. Let's look at the standings, because if you finish top, it's automatic qualification straight through to Abu Dhabi. Whew, I'm just thinking about the heat at the end of July as we head there. And of course, RHG, we watched them earlier on. They got a 4-0 clean sweep against the rivals BMW. They were your current champions, but it doesn't look like they're in championship form. I don't know why I've said that to the side of my mouth. Yas Heat then with 6 points going into this one. As we say, it's all to play for. The second place and third place team will play in a playoff, which will be very exciting on the 8th and 9th of July. So this is the last match. I feel like I said it earlier on, a part joke. If you don't want to know the results, it's too late. There they are in front of you. Red Bull 3-1 against Fordzilla, Aston Martin 2-1 against Mercedes-AMG Petronas. That was a turn up for the books. We weren't expecting that. And then a 4-0 clean sweep from RHG against BMW. So Yas Heat. What do we need to know, George, about this lineup? Hayden's already called them in the first 5 minutes the big dogs, the insane team. What do you make of this team?
Well, you've got the most versatile team, ideally, in the championship. James Baldwin, he himself is decorated in the world of sim racing, but not only that, real-life motorsport as well. He's actually competing in the 24-hour of Spa at the end of next month as well in real life. Not to mention his achievements in the world of sim racing, obviously being part of F1 esports in the Pro Championship, so he knows what it's like to perform here at the Gfinity Arena. But at the same time, he brings a presence, and not to mention the likes of Isaac Gillison, who he himself has been part of the fold as well, has been so dynamic as part of the squad, and has also driven in many different endurance races, single-seater events, you name it, he's got it. And you've got also Marko Pejic, he himself as well, very experienced. And I think this is what this team's all about. They've got experience, they've got ability, pace, the full total package that you need to perform here at the V10 R League.
Now, I know this is a bit judgmental in some respects. We've got pictures in front of us of the drivers. We've got Suzuki in front of us. Plus, we've also got Yas Heat and Marko Pejic. I mean, I tell you what, that is, you'd be happy about that. If you want a dating profile, the eyebrows, the weights in the background, exceptional. I'm sorry we can't show it. But what we can show to you is the picks and bans. That's very unique for the V10 R League. You get to choose which track you'd like to race on and you pick, and you can also ban one. So Mugello is gone, so we are going to the Temple of Speed for Suzuki. They said yes, please, to Monza. And then Yas Heat said Silverstone. Go on then, Spa-Francorchamps, not today. So 5 tracks that they could pick from. What do you make of Monza and Silverstone?
Well, I like the look of Monza. I certainly think the Temple of Speed has a lot to offer. Certainly the V10s, historically, we love to hear the scream of these particular engines around this particular track. So it's going to be interesting. Lots of tight chicanes, twisting sections of the circuit as well. I can see, you know, sort of why they've picked that, certainly given the pace of the drivers, and they have a very Italian sort of essence about them, certainly given the drivers themselves, their nationalities, as we can now see live pictures of them. Dario Mulo, Leonardo Del Carmo, as well as Domenico Lavecce. All 3 of them, great talents. Obviously, Dario Mulo and Domenico, I've commentated on them in the past for the likes of Premier Sim Gaming Leagues, and also they've been in F1 esports as well. Great talents that have the true ability. I also love Silverstone too.
Okay, he's absolutely nailed it there, George. Thank you very much. What I will say about this, Hayden, before we go to a break and then we get into the race in just a moment, is the fact that Yas Heat have not raced on Spa. Is that going to be a weakness or maybe a strength for them?
It'll be a new element for them, but I'm sure, as we spoke to one of the drivers earlier on, they put a lot of hours into all the tracks individually, so they're going to be prepared. And as we can see, Baldwin, again, the hair's not quite on point once again.
Wow, that's so harsh. But the gloves are on.
Hayden.
And I reckon the gloves will be coming off in this matchup. Right then, it is Yas Heat taking on Team Suzuki JAESA. We'll have a quick break. When we come back, we'll get underway. Thank you so much for coming back to the V10 R League. Myself, Tom Deacon, Hayden Gullis and George Morgan taking you through all of the action in our last race and matchup of today. Team Suzuki JAESA taking on Yas Heat. Now, if you are new to it, we are starting off with the relay race, and you might need this to be explained to you what is going to happen in the next 5 minutes. So here you go. In the relay race, all 3 drivers in the team must complete 1 lap each, with drivers swapping out of the car during pit stops. 1 driver per team must complete an extra lap, known as the Joker lap. A Joker lap can be taken at any time during the relay race by any driver on the team. The team that completes all their laps first, including the Joker lap, is declared the winner of the relay race to take 1 point. Now, as this is matchup 4, of the day. We've already had 3 already. And from the relay race, what seems to be a recurring theme is about the pit stop, Hayden. And whether you can maximise the amount of time, you have to be in there for 70 seconds. But teams seem to be missing a trick and not getting out of that pit lane as soon as they possibly can. And that affects the race, and then they end up losing a point. So what can they do, and what can you explain to people watching right now?
It's such fine margins. As you said, 70 seconds for the whole pit lane. You've got to come in, stop the car, jump out of the server, tell your teammate to then jump into the car. Then they've got to go. But if they go too early, they're going to get a penalty. So you need to leave the pit lane, 70.0 seconds. You need to be right on the marks. And it's very hard to do so, to time that, especially if you're the car behind, you want to try and get up to speed. You go a little bit too early, you hit the brakes, you lose time. Or you go too early, you get a penalty. So it's very fine margins. And we're going to see the best teams who've put more practice into this nail it.
OK, so practice makes perfect, George. But when we go to the track, which is Monza, I'm going to leave it in your capable hands. Best of luck.
Thank you, Tom. Here we go, folks. All 6 lights now lit, and it's pedal to the metal here, and it's go, 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 go. And Yas Heat get off to a cracking start as well, with now Team JAESA Suzuki in behind them as well. Domenico Lavecce now having to succumb to second place, with James Baldwin leading the way from the get-go. They come through the first chicane at the Rettifilio, and it is now James Baldwin leading here around the Curva Grande. No Grande moves here right now as Domenico Lavecce sits in second place. An orderly start here, Hayden Gullis.
Yeah, this is a good matchup for the first one between these 2 teams, as James Baldwin and Domenico Lavecce seem to be the 2 drivers who are the captains of these teams and lead the way in recent weeks. But Lavecce just slightly off the pace at the moment from James Baldwin, half a second back right now between the 2 drivers. But the gap isn't necessarily gaining too much at the moment. And of course, as we have just said, mistakes can creep in the pit stop phase. It'll be interesting to see how these 2 drivers, though, who takes the Joker lap, or will we potentially see both drivers do the Joker lap as well? Let's see, as they're going through the final corner now.
Yeah, coming through towards the Parabolica. James Baldwin, will he box? Will he not? We'll have to wait and see. Heading through now, this next right-hander. Very progressive corner here at the Parabolica. Can tee you up certainly for a long run down the stretch. Both drivers coming in early. No Joker lap being served in the opening stint. But credit to Domenico Lavecce, keeping it within half a second. And looking now on the screen, we can see them coming through the pit lane now. And this is where, like we've seen consistently throughout this championship, is where the crucial driver changes happen.
Yeah, quite surprising for me, actually, because I did expect at least one of these drivers to do the Joker lap, and maybe Lavecce was just kind of copying what Baldwin was doing, because Baldwin seems to be the captain, seems to be the faster guy, but maybe it's Gillison this week, or even Pajic as well, who could be the faster guys at this Monza circuit. But both drivers jumping out. We're going to have Iemio into the car for Team Suzuki. We've got Gillison in the car for Yas Heat. And again, it'll be interesting to see who does the Jokers. It looks like very quick there, but as you can see, Team Suzuki kind of angling that car, which is great tactics, because we saw it earlier at the Yas Marina circuit. They had to avoid that wall. So Suzuki lining themselves up very nicely, but Yas Heat not doing the same thing, so time could be lost here.
It could certainly be. If you look at where their car's positioned as well, right at the front, right next to the barrier, it's going to be trickier for them to actually leave the pit lane. So a great opportunity now, certainly for the Suzuki team, to actually get the jump. Isaac Gillison currently in the car, gets away very close to the barrier on exit, the concrete barrier on the right-hand side. Of course, it's not the usual steel variety that we would necessarily see on track. as you can now see them all nose to tail pretty much heading down through towards the first chicane. Dario Yamulo in the car as well, and chasing after Isaac Gillison, who's currently leading this charge right now. The gap has sprung out though. Look at the escape that Gillison had out of the chicane. He's now breached a second. It's 1.1. You can just see the composure in the face there of Isaac Gillison making his way down through towards the next chicane at the Rogier. And this one you can take pretty quickly too. Obviously coming down into it, attacking the curves, heading down towards the Lesmo. But Yamulo doing well to marshal in the time. He's managed to bring it back into a second now, so showing some of that pace, heading through the next right-hander. They have got the power pass system at their disposal as well. 25 seconds of that on the table. It gives them some additional power in order to execute overtakes or just generically gain pace. As you can already see, Yamulo's brought the gap down again. Could well be the use of that power pass.
Yeah, a bit of a shaky start there for Yamulo at the start of his stint, losing that time, but now doing a fantastic job gaining it. Of course, Suzuki were the ones to choose this track, so you would suspect they put a little bit more practice into Monza than other circuits. You just think, what could have happened if Yamulo just nailed that initial launch out of the pit lane? Would he be a bit closer to Gillison? It looks like both drivers doing the Joker lap, so we are getting our wish. Two drivers doing the Joker lap at the same time, being close on track. But it looks like Yas Heat really set up for straight line speed around here, which is no surprise, seeing as it's the temple of speed.
No, not at all. Obviously, if you're given the corners, the chicanes are so tight, generically you can nearly take them straight the way they're lined up. Obviously, apart from the Ascari chicane, you could argue the Rogier as well. Obviously, the first chicane is pretty tight too, but as you can now see them head through, you can see them just attacking the curves as we ride on board with Dario Yamulo. Of course, one of the drivers that competed in the F1 Esports Pro Championship, as I alluded to earlier on, has got such a deep history in the world of esports and sim racing, certainly that of league racing as well. Has competed against the best, such as fellow competitors we've seen here this season in the V10 League, such as the Flying Dutchman Jarno Opmeer and obviously Cedric Tomei as well. Heading through this next chicane, James Baldwin will also be one of those contenders in the world of league racing and esports as well. But Isaac Gillison managing to marshal out that gap to 1.4 seconds, now 1.5, so really starting to spring forward. So this is a good visit here from Yas Heat at this point, springing out this Joker lap that has certainly worked for them here at this point. He's going to come into the pit lane now, but they're going to have one final driver change. This entry is going to be crucial.
Yeah, Isaac Gillison slow up to speed on his first lap, but then really got into the rhythm in the second one, managed to break that gap, getting a sizable lead over Dario there in the Team Suzuki car. Now, of course, it's the pit stop phase. They're both out of the cars. They're going to be onto the comms. Get in as quickly as you can, and then once they're in and settled, they can maybe try and do that tactic, position their car in the right place to give them the best run out of the pit lane. But we've got to make sure they do not go too early.
No, absolutely. You can suffer a severe penalty. Certainly the stewards will be taking a watchful eye over this process. Pejic in the car, Del Carmo in the car as well, currently in second place. Obviously, he's got a little bit of work to do to usurp that of Marco Pejic, but we've seen that certainly we can certainly imagine there will be some battles ending on the final lap. You never know. It's certainly nothing certain in racing, Hayden, when it comes down to this. So it could all hang on this exit from the pit lane.
Yeah, we saw it in the opening session of the day where it was decided in the pit lane and the exit. So we could see it once again here. We can hear the engines going. So they are about to go, and there goes the Yas Heat team again, very close to that barrier on the right-hand side. But Pejic, yeah, indeed, Pejic is ready to go, but unfortunately, looks like maybe a problem for the Suzuki team. D'Alcamo now the gap 2.3 seconds, very slow on the pit stop for the team, and unfortunately, going on to the final lap here, I don't think we're going to get that battle we wish for.
No, Del Carmo, unfortunately not getting the cleanest of exits. 2.3 seconds the gap has been launched out to. So Marco Pejic with a huge opportunity to land Yas Heat's first win in this exchange, certainly heading through the Rogier chicane now. And after such a wonderful championship that they've had today, it looks like they're going to commence this evening's round, certainly in a positive fashion, heading through the Lesmo now. The second Lesmo beckons, and they'll be sending it down the Serigilio Straight, one of the most attractive circuits on most calendars. Monza, known for its sheer pace and speed, as they now make their way down through towards the Ascari chicane. They will hit each and every single curb, heading through the next left heading through the next right. Pejic, Del Carmo now back by 2 seconds. He's managed to bring it back in though, 1.8 he's managed to find heading out of the Sergio straight, but it's not going to be enough to topple that of Yas Heat. They certainly have led all the way. Pejic, all he had to do was bring it home. Composure was necessary, mental strength. It's Marco Pejic. He takes the opening win, the checkered flag. Yas Heat on top in our first relay event.
Oh, the energy and passion in which George Morgan sent that home. It's almost as good as the driving that I have just witnessed from Yas Heat. You are looking at them right now, James Baldwin, Isaac Gillison and Marco Pejic doing exactly what they need to do. You might be thinking, is Marco Pejic frozen? I imagine he has, because he has not blinked for too long, but maybe that's just the concentration that he delivers. So here we are then, Yas Heat taking on Team Suzuki JAESA. And we headed to Monza in the relay race. Domenico Lavecce trying to get the lead and edge on James Baldwin, but we know just how good James Baldwin is in terms of performances so far this season. He's had a P2, a P1, and add two more P1s to that, so we know how good James Baldwin is. However, Gillison steps up next to do the Joker lap. Dario Imolu did the Joker lap for Team Suzuki. And then Pejic versus the Alcamo. And it seemed like, as the guy said, that's Hayden and George. There's a problem for Suzuki. Maybe it was human error. Maybe there was something going on from the pit lane. Not the battle we wanted. And the first scalp goes to that team, Yas Heat. Hayden, what did you make from that race?
It was close to the start. I think there was some close racing. James Baldwin had the edge in the first run. In the second run, it looked like maybe Iemolo could come back into it, but then Isaac Gillison had the better of the second joke. And unfortunately, that mistake in the pit lane from the team lost them a big amount of time. And but it's not over yet. It wasn't like they were miles behind. There is still a chance we go into the team race.
Okay. Before we go to the break, and then we just settle ourselves before we have a team race at Monza, George, what did you make of that?
I thought it was a good race. I mean, I think there's some positives there for Suzuki. I think given the fact that their on-track pace was good. I mean, there was no issues with their on-track performance. I certainly think they matched Yas Heat toe for toe. Like that error in the pit stop sort of creeped in, but they could be positive with Del Carmo's certainly visit on track, gaining back the time that was lost slowly but steadily.
Okay, their on-track pace, according to George Morgan, is there or thereabouts. That means we're going to have a great team race. We're going to have a break. When we come back, head to Monza, and it's going to be good. Buonasera. That is what you would say if you were in Italy right now, and that's where we are. We're in Monza. We've had the relay race, and now we're heading to the team race. I'm joined by Hayden Gullis and George Morgan. You can see the result there from Monza, and it's Yas Heat, your winners, crossing the line before Team Suzuki JAESA. So, we still have a team race to go. And then, after we're done and dusted with Monza, we've brushed our hands off, we'll be heading to Silverstone for another relay race and a team race. But for those that are watching and thinking, hey, Tom, listen, I understand it. I know that you're going to a team race. I need to know the points. I need to know how it works. There's a 3v3. Do not panic anymore. Here is your team race explainer. Each team race involves all 3 drivers, in each team competing at the same time across 6 laps. Teams are awarded driver points based on the finishing positions of their drivers. The team with the highest combined driver points is the winner and picks up 1 match point. Now, if you were thinking, Tom, are we in safe hands? Look how many notes George Morgan has in front of him. There's a heck of a lot of paper there.
Filled up the whole desk.
He's filled up the whole desk,
This is my bit. This is my segment.
George, Hayden, this is going to be good because you mentioned before we went to the break that Suzuki have the race pace, but weren't able to deliver there in the relay race. However, we go there, I see the grid. This is the grid starting positions for the team race. Leveche is in P3, and he's going to need to overtake Gillison and Baldwin. That's not easy to do.
Not easy at all. I mean, obviously, Baldwin, we all know about his presence. And in team events, he is the sole driver in the championship to win all his team event races. So he is certainly the man you want, I think, to be leading your assault at a team event. But Gillison in behind as well, he's going to be a hard taskmaster to try and battle against. Leveche, though, has done extremely well to get into P3, and I would not write off Yamulo or Del Carmo as well. They are both only mere tenths away.
Taskmaster, I'd love to do that show. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about. Del Carmo is 4 tenths away. Hayden, I'm going to pass over to George. Enjoy.
Here we go, folks. All 6 lights now here lit for the very first team event here tonight. It's pedal to the metal, and it's go, 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 go! And already from the get-go, it is James Baldwin who leads the way. Isaac Gillison just in behind as well, but look at this, Marco Pejic now challenging for that 3rd place as well. They go side by side. Leveche, though, hangs on to that 3rd, coming out now of the Rettifilio chicane around the Curva Grande, and it's still James Baldwin on top, the world's fastest gamer, of course, as well as Isaac Gillison, 4 tenths back. Domenico Leveche in 3rd place. Pejic, though, still in the fight, only just over 3 tenths of a second in behind.
Yeah, it looked like Pejic maybe had the chance to nick that 3rd position, but Leveche straight back in there and onto the podium spot, which is good for him because, you know, overtaking 2 drivers is easier than overtaking 3. I mean, that's just the logic that I bring to the table right here. Logic. Exactly. Leveche, though, he has still got a task to do. He needs to gain onto the back of Gillison, overtake him, and then, of course, it's the mighty James Baldwin, world's fastest gamer, that he needs to try and overtake. So we've got a Yas Heat car spinning off in Ascari. That is Pejic, unfortunately. Huge error. But thankfully for the team, they still have drivers in 1st and 2nd.
Yeah, but a lifeline sent across now to Suzuki as well, who have now got drivers in 3rd, 4th and now 5th as well. Pejic now reduced to sitting merely at the back after that issue heading around the Ascari chicane. Domenico Leveche, who's currently in 3rd, looking to chase on Isaac Gillison. We've got a replay now coming to you folks. Here we go. We'll take a look at it. And in slow-mo, you can just see, you just can't
take a shortcut.
He tried to take a shortcut, but that's what happens, see. Take shortcuts, you get slapped down. Unfortunately, Pejic unable to capitalise and instead taking a different venture across the Ascari chicane.
Yeah, the Joker laps, they're in the team relay, not in the team sprint race.
No, very true, Hayden.
Yeah, trying to go for the shortcut over the inside, and he just took it a little bit too much, and unfortunately, especially with the power, the 900 brake horsepower in these V10 R League cars, nearly 1,000 if you use that push-to-pass button. I hope that he wasn't using the push-to-pass button when he was going over the grass there, but it's going to be so easy to spin up the rear tyres, especially when you're offline and you're in that dirty part of the track. It's just going to be so difficult for you. And it's unfortunate for him, but he'll be thankful that he has 2 strong teammates currently in 1st and 2nd. Gillison is, he's got a bit of hot on his heels as Leveche right on his tail right now, about half a second back, but he is building that gap to his teammate and becoming that safety buffer.
Yeah, James Baldwin looking to make it a record of 5 wins in 5 team races. So you've got to give him credit. He's certainly the man in form. When it comes down to this, he's already posted the fastest lap of 120.037. Of course, that's not only what James Baldwin is certainly achieved. Well, that's not all that he's achieved. Certainly, world's fastest gamer being one thing. British GT driver as well for Jenson Button's Team Rocket Motorsport. And also driving in the 24-hour of Spa next year. And he's already posted on social media and made it well aware that he's delighted to be returning to his stint of real-life racing, as much as his competitive nature in esports as well. The man has got it all. Gillison in second place as well, over a second back, just in behind. Leveche in third place. Nearly 7/10 is all that separates the pair, as you can now see them taking or tackling the Lesmo corners, heading through the next right-hander. And certainly Team Suzuki getting closer and closer. Leveche actually looking pretty menacing right now. Showed some good pace in qualifying, parking the car in third place on the grid. And now heading up through towards the next chicane. Certainly this very famous Ascari chicane that caught out Marco Pajic earlier on. We're now at the halfway point, lap 3 of 6. Good chance for Domenico Leveche.
Yeah, less than half a second at the moment. Of course, Gillison is keeping that second gap to his teammates. So if he does have that opportunity and takes it and is able to move up into second place, he's still got to then gain on James Baldwin. And even if he does that, we all know it's one thing to gain on a driver, it's another thing to overtake him. But he has just gone and set the fastest lap of the race so far, the 1:19.7. So he is really on it and pushing very hard at this stage of the race. And look at that right on the back of Isaac Gillison.
Well, he's showing the pace, and in fact, I believe it's quicker than his qualifying lap. So very, very impressive stuff from Domenico Leveche. Currently sat in P3 and now only a mere 4/10 behind that of Isaac Gillison. James Baldwin still in front, but he is no way near outside the second mark ahead of his teammate, who is currently 8.5 in behind him. And look at Leveche getting all sorts of speed right now, heading through now the Lesmo 1. He'll then tackle Lesmo 2. The Serigilio straight is what will come next if he uses the push to pass now to exit the corner. I believe that's what he has done, trying to get a little bit of extra speed heading down this straight. I'd imagine that Gillison will be looking to do the same just to keep that Suzuki driver in behind him. Heading through Ascari now. Baldwin still leads. He's broken a second now. It's 1.1 as it stands. And Gillison, as you can see from his rear view mirror, or certainly his rear wing, you've got Leveche currently sat in P3, but haunting that Yas Heat car right now.
Yeah, here's his best opportunity. He needs to get as close to the rear of Isaac Gillison through the parabolica, but not oversend it to then lose the traction out to the corner, which I think he's done ever so slightly, the gap gaining just a little bit. This is the best opportunity on the track to be hard on the brakes, up the inside into the first corner, and it's such a tight, heavy braking zone that it really does present the best overtaking opportunity on the whole circuit. But there are others around the track, so if Isaac Gillison does make a mistake, I'm sure Leveche is there ready to pounce. But James Baldwin holding it down at the moment, 1.4 second lead over his teammate. Isaac Gillison doing a fantastic job of being the defender for Yas Heat. We've got Leveche in third, Iemulo in P4 and Di Alcamo in fifth. And unfortunately there for Pajic right to the back of the field in P6 after his shortcut antics.
Yeah, Gillison locking out that top end, certainly the top two anyway. Leveche in behind though, getting some good speed, heading through the Serigilio straight. He's probably the closest he's ever been at this point of the track. Just over 0.3 of a second is all that separates him and Gillison heading into the Ascari chicane. Currently matching toe for toe with Isaac Gillison right now. Arguably, you could say that Leveche is the fastest driver. There you can see him trying to get into the toe or the slipstream of Isaac Gillison right now, just making sure that he's got the pace, the overspeed. Now heading in towards the parabolica. Still Baldwin leads, and that gap is sprung out by 0.4 of a second. Since we last checked, it was a second earlier on. It has now drifted outwards, and it's now drifted out to 1.5 now, as they start setting more lap times heading down towards the first chicane. And this is the Rettifilio chicane. Leveche still very much within that half a second. They have got the pace here, Hayden. This is the important factor. They have got the pace at Team Suzuki, and therefore this could enable them to at least score something big tonight.
They definitely do. It's good to see they can take the fight to the Yas Heat team, and it's not like they've just completely disappeared. Unfortunately, this was the track that Suzuki chose. So I don't mean to be a downer, okay? It can still happen in the next two races, but we go over to a track that Yas Heat have chosen. They maybe have put more hours in practice at that circuit compared to Suzuki, of course. So we'll have to wait and see whether that works out that way. But for now, James Baldwin is going to be a very happy man.
Yeah, he certainly is. Currently leading, heading down the Serigilio straight into Ascari. And it's nearly 2 seconds that he's planted upon Isaac Gillison. Levetche really trying to charge, 4/10 behind. But nevertheless, you can be pleased, I think, if you're Domenico Levetche right now, because he knows he has the pace, despite not maybe getting the P1 they would have wanted at a track such as Monza. But heading around the Parabolica bend, if it was ever in doubt, he's going to go 5 from 5 in team events. It's the world's fastest gamer. It's the man with the haircut. It's James Baldwin on top, P1, ahead of his teammate Isaac Gillison. A 1-2 for Yas Heat. It wasn't on the day for Pejic. He's down in 6th, but Yas Heat have a lot to be proud of.
Here we are then in the V10 R League Season 3. This is round 4. Yas Heat wanting to make sure they get automatic qualification from Group A. How are they doing so far? Well, it's looking incredibly good for them as they provisionally take a 2-0 lead. James Baldwin, Isaac Gillison, Marco Pescic doing exactly what they needed to do in the team race, getting the job done. As we went into that first corner, it was a bit of a battle. It ended up being a 1-2-3 for them. Oh, it was close, wasn't it, George? Hayden, it had a bit of everything that race, but when it comes down to it, Yas Heat doing what they needed to do, and James Baldwin just showing why he is so revered. Even though Hayden Gullis says to us every time, I've beaten him once in a sim racing race.
World's fastest gamer now.
It doesn't make you the world's fastest gamer. What did you like about the performance from Yas Heat, George?
I just thought it was a controlled performance, and we've referred back to the fact of mental strength, and I think that's again something they've showed. Obviously, Baldwin is a very successful sim racer, has done a lot in his career, but again, showing that killer instinct, that winning instinct, and that's crucial in the V10R League.
Yeah, massively important, that winning mentality. But as a team, they worked. I mean, Isaac Gillison did the job of being almost like the wingman, and was very strong there. What did you like about their performance?
Great performance from the team, but the cracks are starting to show because
Wow.
Pejic made a mistake. We can't not talk about that. Pejic made a mistake. You know, he tried to take a shortcut, didn't work out for him. I don't think you can take shortcuts in the V10R League, even though we have seen Levetche do it in Spa in earlier weeks. But
and in the Duke of Edinburgh Award, you can't take shortcuts. You have to do the whole journey of orienteering.
Exactly. So Pejic is definitely going to learn that he has to do the full track in the future. But, you know, I'm sure they'll overcome this quite quickly. The pace looked very good for them. And I'm sure as we go to the next race, which they have chosen, they'll be up there once again.
Okay, let's have a look at the team race results then. What happened there? As you can see, Baldwin getting that P1. He started P1, he finished P1. Gillison in 2nd, Levetche 3rd, Iemalu in 4th, Diakama, and then as Hayden pointed out, the mistake from Pejic there. So it means 17 points to 9, means that Yas Heat take that all-important point. We are at the halfway stage. We head now to the away track for Yas Heat. They have chosen Silverstone. We'll have the relay, then we'll have the team race. But at this point, it's going to be a tall order for Suzuki Team JAESA to get back into it, George. They have the chance. What do you like about them to give us a bit of confidence that they can do that?
I like the pace, and I think Levetche, looking at his performance, I think we saw that he could definitely battle with the likes of Gillison. Actually set the fastest lap of the race in that previous race at Monza, which is quite a statement, certainly at the Temple of Speed. Obviously, it's a very different track now that we're heading to at Silverstone that obviously falls into character for the likes of Yas Heat, but. You know, I appreciate obviously the previous event will hurt, but they've got the pace and they know, they've shown it, and I firmly believe they have a chance.
Okay, and what about yourself, Hayden?
Well, they're just driving for pride at this point because unfortunately the way the table has worked out, it does mean unfortunately they are out of the competition. They can't mathematically get into that playoff position. But of course they would like to get points on the board. For them to go and beat and get points off of Yas Heat would be great for them and their confidence in future series as well. So for them, it's all about pride today and, you know, just putting on a good show.
What I like about that is you're saying there's going to be a season 4. Well, I mean, whether I get called back, we will find out. Listen, whoa, unbelievable. Just because we're wearing almost the same colour top, ridiculous. You are watching the V10 R League. We have had the race in Monza. Now we will be heading to Silverstone. That will be happening after this short break. Welcome back to the V10 League. A pleasure to have you with us for what is setting up to be a very juicy encounter between Suzuki Team JAESA versus Yas Heat. Yas Heat made up of the world's fastest gamer, James Baldwin, Isaac Gillison and Marco Pecci. And they've got very comfortable in taking the lead. They have a 2-0 dominant lead over Team Suzuki. Dominique Levette, Dario Imolu, Leonardo Di Alcamo know what they have to do as we started in Monza, but now we head over to Silverstone. So they know what they have to do. They need to put some points on the board. We go into the relay race. What do they need to do differently? We're seeing the lineup of the relay race. I mean, before you had Gillison taking the Joker lap and Imolu having the Joker lap. Would you change it, George?
I don't know. I'm really not sure. I mean, obviously they went together and they went on the same strategy. It's hard to tell. I mean, the pace is there. I mean, it'd be tricky. I mean, do you need to change things if you're on the pace? Is the change necessary? That's what you've got to ask yourself. I suppose the one thing you could change, I suppose, is when you unleash the pit stop, or when you do go for that Joker lap. Because it can make a difference, certainly, if you want to go for an overcut or an undercut. But we'll have to wait and see. The lights are about to go red anyway, as we now hit all 6 here at Northampton. And it's pedal to the metal for the relay race. And it's go, 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 go. And certainly James Baldwin down the inside now, heading in towards turn 1, as we've so often seen this season, but certainly as they now go side by side, it is Baldwin on top, at least for now. But the outside line here from the Suzuki car of Domenico Levette as he goes hunting down the inside. Big chance now, soon to be down the Wellington straight as they come around Aintree corner. It's Baldwin on top, the world's fastest gamer, showing that pace yet again. But Levette is far from done, Hayden Gullis.
No, he kind of compromised his line ever so slightly through the loop there as he just had a look up the inside, and unfortunately that compromise is such an important corner to maximise the traction and maximise the exit, because it sets you up the overtake as you head down into Brooklands and Luffield. And I feel like if you maybe just settled through turn 3 and turn 4 and then attack down into Brooklands, there might have been a chance to go side by side. But it was great pace there from Levette to really attack at the opening of this lap.
Certainly showed intent, certainly showed that he's got the grit, he's got the style, determination. 3.5 tenths is all that separates him and James Baldwin, of course. Yas Heat at the favourable track. They voted for this one. You'd expect them to perform here at this one too. Heading down in towards Stowe. Baldwin still leads, just nearly at a 0.6 of a second difference now between him and Domenico Levette, who still remains in second, still chasing. Baldwin comes into the pit lane, and so does Levette. No change, but look at the gains made during the pit stop phase. As you can see, braking later, Domenico Levette, but it could have gone horribly wrong for him.
Yeah, he nearly went straight into the back of that Yas Heat car, but nonetheless, both cars made it into the pit lane okay, so we can all breathe a sigh of relief. But the timer is on. The unique thing about Silverstone is it's one of the longest pit lanes in this whole entire series. So that 70 seconds is going to be a bit more of a tighter squeeze compared to the other pit lanes. But of course now, jumping out the car onto your teammate, get in the server, and then get ready to go racing once again. But don't go too early, otherwise you will get a penalty.
You certainly will. I mean, I was half expecting the parachute to come flying at the back towards his move into the pit lane. But Yamulo now in the car, Dario Yamulo, with Isaac Gillison now also in the car for Yas Heat. So they get prepped, ready to head back out again for the next stint. And this will be the second one. Obviously, they've got one more to take after this one. One of the drivers, though, is going to have to do the Joker lap on both teams. So who is that going to be? Is it going to be the case that Gillison and Yamulo do it again, do you think, Hayden?
Potentially. It seemed to go that way last time, but who knows? Because I always find as Yas Heat just flies straight through, but gets the lead once again. So it's even Stevens how it was before we went into the pit lane. But it's all really dependent on who your fastest driver is, because usually on the Joker lap you kind of have that free air. If you take it at the right time when the other team isn't doing it, you get a little bit of free space. So you want the guy who is best in their qualifying laps. Gillison certainly was a little bit shaky on his first lap compared to Iemolo over at Monza. Is that going to go the same way? Looks like Iemolo is closing in the gap just a little bit as they head down in towards Brooklands and then through Luffield. If Iemolo can get close enough to maybe try and overtake on the second lap, it could make this battle very interesting indeed.
It could, and Maggots and Beckett is certainly going to provide us with a bit interesting moment. Certainly, let's see if Gillison can keep Yamulo behind him. Can Yamulo reduce that deficit between him and the Yas Heat driver? He's already brought the time in to just over 5.5 tenths. Well, it is smack on 5.5 tenths right now. It's been brought inwards a lot more now. 5.3 now out to 6. Obviously, Gillison finding a little bit more in Maggots and Beckett. Heading out of campus now down the long hanger straight, down through towards Stowe. Definitely, I think, a lot more straight line speed in that Suzuki car.
Yeah, it's really gaining on those straights, isn't it? It's right on the back of Isaac Gillison, about 5 tenths of a second, half a second. Both of them doing the Joker lap once again. But will we see a repeat of what happened in Monza, where Gillison just kind of found that rhythm, found that speed on the second lap and built the gap? Well, only time will tell. Yamulo right on the tail now of Gillison. Again, just Gillison finding that speed on the start-finish straight compared to, so whether the sandbags were just on and now they've been fully taken off, and he's like, off we go. I'm going to show you my real speed now. The 7 tenths currently is the gap. Yamulo needs to maximise the exit off of the loop to try and get as close as he possibly can down into Brooklands.
Yeah, heading down the Wellington straight now, and very shortly they will take that left-hander. Of course, Gillison, who we can see just ahead as we ride on board with Dario Yamulo. You could argue that Yamulo perhaps took that corner a little better. Heading through this next right-hander, he's managed to bring the gap down again to 6.5 tenths. And is still very much in tow, still in with a chance. And this is what I'm talking about. The pace of the Suzuki team is certainly still there. They've got it. It's just a case of trying to get their head in front, really. I mean, Gillison doing a great job of keeping Yamulo behind him, just marshalling that difference, that deficit. But still, at the same time, you can't write off Team Suzuki. All it takes is one mistake. They're not infallible, Hayden. Big chance still for Dario.
No, they can't back off at this stage, because if they start to do that, Suzuki are ready to pounce. It makes it very exciting for us going into the team race as well, because it means that, you know, any mistakes from Yas Heat, which we did see in the last race in Monza, then Suzuki are ready there to take it. They need a good qualifying, though, to try and, you know, get themselves in that hunt to really take the fight to the Yas Heat team, which hopefully we will see, because we like to see great on-track racing, as we're into the pit lane once again for the final time today, in fact, as Yas Heat are currently leading the way over Team Suzuki. It's going to be Hayich versus D'Alcamo for this final battle. Who do you fancy?
Well, it's Sophie's choice at this point, isn't it? I mean, I have to say, but we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, both cars now in the pit lane, Yamulo and Gillison, and they're going to be swapping now. Hayich, D'Alcamo as well coming into the car. So let's keep our eyes peeled, folks. Obviously, the jump out of the pit lane is going to be so vital on this final lap. Well, certainly the decider, or certainly the decision maker as to who leads at this point. Hayich already in the car. Now, there's D'Alcamo there as well in the pit lane, currently sat in the car too. Who gets the early jump, the better jump at this point, folks? Let us know if you're watching at home. Certainly, if we're watching, plenty of them now all line up. Well, certainly these two, they're going to be battling it out, squabbling towards the end. The throttle is alive here for Leonardo D'Alcamo as he now looks to leave. Is Hayich going to jump out first? Big question mark here, as now they're pretty much nip and tuck, gap thinner than a fly's eyelash, but Hayich is in front, heading out on the final lap. It is him on top, D'Alcamo in second place.
I don't even know what to say after what the gap thinner than a fly's eyelash. Where on earth did that come from? Hayich, though, it was close. They were literally inside of each other coming out of the pit lane there. George Morgan, my days. Hayich, though, leading the way for the Yas Heat team. D'Alcamo in second place. We head through the Luffield at the moment for the final lap of this team relay race between Yas Heat and Suzuki. Can Suzuki get it back at the end of this lap? Of course, Hayich is going to be taking it easy, trying to make sure he brings that car home. But, you know, any mistakes like we saw earlier on, the Suzuki are there.
Yeah, they are. Absolutely, they are there. D'Alcamo only just over 6.5 tenths behind that of Marco Hayich, who now makes his way through the next chicane. Don't forget, folks, we've got the team event coming up very soon as well. So lots of action still left to be had here in this round of the V10 League as they now head around Stowe. Currently, though, this race being controlled by that of Marco Hayich, basically carrying on where the team started. Of course, it all started with James Baldwin leading them round, and now it's all down to Marco Hayich to bring it home here at the home of British motorsport as he now rounds the final corner down the Lewis Hamilton straight, and Yas Heat, they take another win here in a relay event here tonight. They dominate here at Silverstone. Again, they tick all the boxes. They come home in front.
This is the V10 R League. You are witnessing the matchup between Suzuki versus Yas Heat. George Morgan just used the phrase, a gap thinner than a fly's eyelash. Now, I've had some research done by the team. Flies do not have eyelids. They have to rub their eyes with their feet to keep them clean. So actually, that is factually incorrect, and this show is all about being very factual. So on that basis, George Morgan, incredible stuff. Literally incredible stuff. Yeah?
I don't expect to be commentating on Country File or nothing like that. You know, so.
If only that was possible. The energy in which you bring. Brilliant work from George Morgan and Hayden Gullis. We are watching the highlights of that relay race at Silverstone. James Baldwin getting an early lead over Dominique Leveche, doing what he needed to do, and that is battle the world's fastest gamer. James isn't all about that. He has been beaten once by Hayden Gullis, your commentator today, and that's the bane of his life. It's always brought up in every interview. Who do you wish you could have always beat? He won't forget it. However, this seems to be a forgettable matchup for Suzuki so far. I'm not trying to be harsh on them just because you can, because they're 3-0 down provisionally at the moment. But it just seems to show Yas Heat are very strong and they're dominating because they're one of the, coin the phrase, insane teams.
Yeah, I think the scoreline tells a different story to maybe how Suzuki have performed, because they have been there. They have been in that fight, and it wasn't an easy win for Yas Heat in this team relay, because Leveche was battling with Baldwin in the opening lap, but then also in the pit stop phase, as you said, thinner than a fly's eyelash, even though they don't have them. You know, it was very close. It was very close between the two teams, and they only just beat them across the line. So it does make an exciting team race. So fingers crossed we have a battle.
Hayden says it's going to be an exciting team race. Why is it going to be an exciting team race, George? Because of the pace between these two teams. Anything could happen. There could be a collision. Something could to go awry for Team Yas Heat.
They never breached that second difference. I mean, they were in to 6/10 pretty much the majority of that race. So the team themselves have got a lot to be pleased about. I think on that basis, I just think they'll probably find it frustrating that they haven't managed to tip it over the line and stay in front, or get in front for that matter. I like the way they've gone about it, though. They haven't, it's never say die. Good racing. And certainly at Silverstone, that's what we want to see. I think in the team event, some opportunities will open up, certainly in the first sector. So we have to keep our eyes peeled. They have got a lot of straight line speed.
He's absolutely jinxed it. I think we've all heard it there. George Morgan has jinxed it. There'll be no mention of flies' eyelashes when we return after the break, because we'll have a final team race of the day as we head to Silverstone. Here we are then, Season 3, the V10 R League at the Gfinity Arena. I'm Tom Deacon. To my left, we have Hayden Gullis, and we also have George Morgan. Gentlemen, it has come down to the end. It's the last race of the day. Just to confirm, the last one we had, the relay race at Silverstone, Yas Heat getting that win against Team Suzuki JAESA, which means it's 3-0. No team likes to lose by 4 points to nothing, do they, George? They want to get something on the board, and what is it going to take for Suzuki to manage to do that?
I think they've got to. It's balls to the wall at this point. I think, you know, at this particular last race situation, I think if you've come away with it and you're 3-0 down, you've just got to do something. You just got to go for it. I think at this point they've got nothing to lose, you know, at this stage. So may as well try and fight for a bit of pride. They've got, as I said before, they've got the speed. Let's see if they can try and usurp this team.
Usurp this team. What a lovely phrase. I like it. Hayden, Suzuki, they need to just go for it, full send on this. In a 3v3, what have we noticed from today in terms of tactics?
Well, I mean, it's all about the defender, really. That's going to be Pejic, who's going to be stepping up to that plate. But Leveche seems to be the leader of the Suzuki team. So if he gets a fantastic start off the line, who knows? He could potentially take that fight to James Baldwin. But we're looking at the grid at the moment. 1, 2, 3 for Yas Heat, 4, 5, 6 for Suzuki. It's not looking good for them at the moment. Will it turn out like that? Over to George.
Yeah, for the final time tonight. Thank you, Hayden Gullis. Here we go. It's pedal to the metal, and it's go, 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 go. And they do get away very, very well indeed, all in an orderly fashion. And it certainly will be James Baldwin leading the fray, but looking behind Domenico Leveche already from the get-go, looking for that top 3 spot. He's going for a double through this next right-hander in turn 3. They go side by side again through the next left-hander, round the loop, very shortly around Aintree corner. Side by side now, P2 on a plate for Dario Yamulo as they make their way down the stretch. You can see Leveche behind as well. He's done it. He's done it, and now you can see Leveche also looking for a way through. 3 wide now, heading through the next left. What a battle indeed. Gillison tries to hang on. Oh, big moment. Big moment. Heading through that right-hander very shortly through left field. I tell you what, they came a cropper around that bend, but just look at the standings. Leveche in second. Pejic is now down. Well, he's in third. Del Carmo in fourth.
Yeah, great start there for Diemolo. It kind of ruined. He had a great battle with Isaac Gillison. It was nip and tuck between the two of them, no way through. And if he can't send it, rear end it, he indeed did do that. And unfortunately, both of them are down in P5 and P6. James Baldwin leading the way now, 1.4 seconds. We watch a replay of what happened at the start. On board from Pejic, then switching over to the off-board of Gillison. And it just looks like Diemolo tried to go for a gap that just did not exist. And unfortunately, contact was always on the cards, both of them dropping to the back. Leveche, though, is in clean S, and now he can try and hunt down James Baldwin, but the gap, 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, it has been marched out. James Baldwin starting as he means to go on, as always, and Leveche in second place has now got to try and bring that gap back in, but against the world's fastest gamer, he has that tag for a reason. 1.5 seconds is the deficit. It's remaining that way, at least for the time being. And I'd be a little concerned about Marco Pejic in behind too, currently in third place, but only 8.5, nearly 9/10 of a second away. Del Carmo in fourth as well, just outside by a second. And unfortunately, due to the incident earlier on, Gillison now 5 seconds back away from Del Carmo, with Yamulo even further behind, 9.7, nearly 10 away from him. So Baldwin on top. Obviously, Yas Heat now in a very, very advantageous position. And Baldwin will look to string out yet another big result in team events. He could go 6 from 6 at this point, at this moment, Hayden, and certainly he seems well versed to this particular championship.
What a stat, and just think I've beaten him in a race as well. Beautiful stuff. Leveche, though, trying to attack James Baldwin for the time being. It's great showing from Leveche, and, you know, if there is a 4th season of the V10 R League, you know, Leveche wants to look at teams elsewhere. This is potentially him throwing out his CV there, that he is on par with one of the top-tier esports drivers, which is James Baldwin. So, you know, great stuff for Leveche to maybe, let's see if any other team wants to pick up another driver. Then, of course, he is putting his name out there at the moment because he's showing some really good pace. And look at that, fastest lap of the race so far, 1:28.013, bringing that gap down just a little bit to James Baldwin. It's unfortunate, that collision at the start, because it was shaping up to be a really tasty battle between these drivers, but unfortunately now, because of the contact, the gaps have kind of just separated a bit too much.
Yeah, I think if you look at it on paper, I think they did exactly what I expected them to, certainly with the fact that they were 3-0 down at this point. They had to do something different. They did. Unfortunately, it didn't pay off, although I have to say, it looked like Yumulo did have the upper hand, and so did Leveche. Obviously, he made the move, and he made it count. Gillison now up into 4th place as well. I'm not sure quite what's happened to Dal Carmo, but the pace has dropped. I'm not sure whether he had an issue, but he has fallen off somewhat. Now down by 1.5 seconds in 5th place, so I get the feeling there was a spin there.
Yeah, it looks like a potential mistake there for Dal Carmo, because the gap was comfortable for him back to Isaac Gillison. But now, of course, he's dropping himself down into P5. Gillison 6 seconds off the pace of Pajic off that earlier collision with Yumulo. So now, really, you've got the top 3, 1.5 seconds separating the 3 of them. And then you've got, of course, 6 seconds back to P4 and a sizable gap between those guys, which is really unfortunate. But, you know, we've seen a mistake from some drivers. Can it creep in with James Baldwin? Will we ever see the man make a mistake?
Well, you could well do. At this moment in time, it doesn't look very convincing that he will. But looking at it on paper right now, he's just marched out the gap between him and Leveche by another 0.2 of a second. Marco Pajic, 1.3. Leveche, though, on to score some decent points himself. And I think this is certainly something he deserves, of course. You'd think that Yumulo probably deserved better out of this race too, obviously, given the fact that he was so fast, so competitive. And he's done well because he's brought in the time gap in by two seconds on his teammate, albeit in 5th place. But Leveche now in 2nd, 1.6 is the gap. Baldwin, though, just doing everything that he's been doing all night long. He's looked so imposing, certainly in this race, and certainly here at Silverstone. It's the home of British motorsport. Seems fitting that he's on top.
It really does. James Baldwin just flying at the moment. I love that. British motorsport. You're going proper British when you say that. James Baldwin, though, yeah, leading the way at the moment. Leveche, though, I've got to say, he's been doing a fantastic job all day, all series so far, leading the Suzuki team, and has been really on it. The gap, you know, okay, it's grown slightly between the 2 drivers, but 2 tenths over the course of 4 laps is great showing. And like you say, very unfortunate for Yumulo. He had a fantastic start, he wasn't even the driver in 4th position. He was a little bit further back than that, managed to move himself up into P2, and then just the battle with Gillison. Maybe he shouldn't have gone for that gap, it was never on the cards, but look at that. Leveche now setting the fastest lap of the race, a 1:27.8. Fantastic lap there from the Suzuki driver, but the gap's still 1.8 seconds.
Yeah, it is still 1.8, and Baldwin once again still marshalling the deficit, despite Leveche's certain efforts to obviously land yet another fastest lap. Just goes to show that he does certainly have the pace to contest against the likes of James Baldwin, and I'm sure that he will use that to feather his cap, that's for sure. Plenty of prospects in the future for a lot of these young talents. Obviously, the V10 League is such a grandiose championship in a sense that it is so hard-hitting, a very different event to what these guys would usually race in as well. As in a rush round on the penultimate lap heading through Croft Corner. You can see there that Baldwin currently on top with Leveche in 2nd place still. Copse Corner, should I say, not Croft. Pajic in 3rd, Gillison in 4th as well, Dal Carmo in 5th. Yumulo, unfortunately, propping up the order in 6th place, but he has also brought that gap in again by another second. So Yumulo showing some really strong pace too towards the end at the moment. But Baldwin proving still that he is one of the greats, certainly in the current world of esports, and certainly continuing his great record where it comes to team events, and certainly Yas Heat right now, they look so imposing. And I think if you're Mercedes or any other team right now watching on at this current situation, you'll earmark certainly Yas Heat as a top contender.
Definitely. I mean, they went up against RAG, beat them 4-0. They're going up against at the moment Suzuki, and it looks like it's going to be another 4-0. And of course they beat Williams 3-1, so they've beaten some great teams with some big score lines as well. So going into that final, things are looking good for them, and things are looking good for them right now as well, because it's going to put them on 10 points and put them back up at the top of this group going into the final week, of course. But James Baldwin, I don't think he liked us saying that Leveche was on a similar pace to him, because he's really turned it up right now. 2.5 seconds currently is the gap right now. But unfortunately, it just seems like, yeah, Iemelu has been closing up to Dialcomo, but Dialcomo's just dropped off massively off the pace as well. So I'm not too sure whether those guys have just unfortunately given up on this race.
I think he's fed up with you saying that you're the world's fastest gamer and you've taken that tag off him, I think, and he's trying to prove you wrong.
It would get to you.
Yeah, absolutely. But how about this for scenes here? Riding on board with James Baldwin in the cockpit camera as we now watch him make his way through Maggotton Beck. It's never a greater sight seen in motorsport, certainly, than that of the corners of Maggotton Beck. It's heading in towards the legendary Stowe corner. Very fast pace, this rapid right-hander, and certainly it's been a rapid story here for James Baldwin, continuing a great record. They say legends get made here at this wonderful circuit here, the home of British motorsport, as I alluded to. James Baldwin is going to send the legend further. He's going to make it 6 from 6 in team events. He wins here for Yas Heat and continues their great run. It's 4-0 here in tonight's round of the V10 League to Yas Heat.
Oh, what a day it has been, and what a day for Yas Heat, getting a 4-0 clean sweep over their group rivals, Team Suzuki JAESA. 4-0 is just an incredible result. Suzuki had the pace, but just couldn't deliver when it mattered. And James Baldwin, that is his 6th podium in the team race. Incredible stuff. That's 5 wins and 1 P2. And if we do interview him, I will be mentioning the P2 repeatedly with him. Here it is. We had Monza, we had Silverstone, we had all the action. And at the end of the day, they battled. Gillison there holding back off Leveche, and it just went back and forth between him. Pesce doing his bit, Alcamo doing his bit at the back. It was brilliant to watch as a neutral, George. Did you feel like a neutral, or were you willing on Team Suzuki a little bit?
I wanted them to do well. I think, to be fair, they've been a bit unfortunate, I think, in tonight's event. Obviously, they had no choice. They had to go for something, and obviously it was a shame that it ended up in an incident on lap 1, because I think we could have seen them fight right through the race. But definitely, from Leveche's point, it was a huge effort. He stayed on the pace, and I think he deserves a lot of credit.
And there he is, James Baldwin. We have mentioned it a couple of times, Hayden. In terms of hair, I mean, it's not what people want to talk about, but hair-wise, James Baldwin or Hayden Gullis, who's got the better hair? Who's got the better barnet?
Clearly.
Okay, wow. That's incredibly humble of you to take that. Hayden, what did you make of that race then? A 4-0 clean sweep, and Suzuki now out of it in terms of Group A and not being able to make it. What did you make from Yas Heat's performance?
I like that Suzuki went for it, because obviously this was their last chance. It's their last game of the series, but Yas Heat have just been phenomenal all series so far, and they're showing it once again here today. When you've got drivers that maybe get taken out or make a mistake, you've still got another driver there who can really put in that performance and show at the top. One of the insane teams, and that's because they have 3 drivers who are some of the top esports in this series.
Okay, R8G was their first matchup. They won that 3-0. They got a draw in the last team race. And then they had Williams, and they got a 3-1 win there. They raced at Silverstone and Monza. So this is their first 4-0 clean sweep. And when we spoke to James in week 1, George, let me take you all the way back to then. He said, you know, it wasn't the complete performance, and they've worked on that, and they've come back, and they've got it finally. What do you think it means to them?
I think it means a lot. I mean, certainly to get the first clean sweep in terms of results is obviously a big statement, because it means you're improving, I think, at this point, certainly from their perspective, because they've come from where they were in week 1. Obviously, we got to witness that. They've now come away and done the perfect 4 out of 4, which is obviously huge, huge mark at a place. And I tell you what, the other teams are going to be looking on. They're going to be citing them as a big danger. Yeah, well, I was going to ask you that, actually, because with Group A, they're now top of the table with 10 points. And Williams, who we thought, they're there or thereabouts, they've got some talented drivers, they're going to be hesitant going into it, because next week, the 8th of July, that's the next time we'll be back in the Gfinity Arena, they're going to be... how are they going to be viewing this matchup against Yas Heat? Should they be confident, or should they be a bit like, wow, this team's really got it?
Yeah, I mean, Yas Heat are looking really good at the moment, but Williams are going up against R8G, I believe. So it's going to be that battle for the 2 teams that have secured themselves a playoff spot now. But of course, they're going to be wanting to go one step further and be like, maybe we can just sneak in a guaranteed spot to Abu Dhabi. So it's a very exciting week in our final week.
Yeah, because of course, £100,000 prize pool up for grabs. The final in Abu Dhabi. If you finish top of the group, as Hayden has just stated, you get automatic qualification. Just to confirm that result that we just watched, a brilliant race. Baldwin, again, another P1 for him. That's 5 in total. It'd be interesting to find out the stats on whether Kevin Siggy has got more podiums, but I think James Baldwin is at the top. I'm speculating there. I can't give you the facts in the same way I can't give you the facts that flies have eyelashes. However, Lecce finishing second, that will do his confidence the world of good. But as you see, it's all Yas Heat, it's all pink down the right-hand side. Monza and Silverstone, a 4-0 win for them. But listen, apart from James Baldwin, I think Isaac Gillison did a brilliant job to back him up to be the wingman, and Pesik as well. What did you make of the other two drivers for Yas Heat today?
Yeah, Gillison looked really good in Monza. Played that defensive role perfectly, didn't let Lecce through. And it was unfortunate in the Silverstone race. He was doing a great job of battling there with Iemilo, but unfortunately the contact just kind of took him out of it. And Pejic, of course, showed some great pace in the Silverstone race as well. Unfortunately made a mistake in Monza, but made up for it.
Yeah. All right, George, putting you on the spot. I've given you no warning for this. We've had 4 brilliant battles today. Has there been a driver that stood out for you today?
I think you'd be foolish not to counter in James Baldwin, I think, at this point. I think he's been very, very strong. Big team leader, certainly the man you'd want fronting your team. There's quite a few, though, I would say. I think...
Is Bianchilila up there for you?
I'd say he is. He's a strong contender. I think definitely. I think I've been quite surprised with Manuel Bianchilila because obviously historically we haven't seen him perform at the top of his game. Not like we've seen him this season at V10R. I think this has been very much a defining championship for Manuel Bianchilila. So it's been great to see what he can bring to the table for Aston Martin.
OK, he is coming into his own now. Let's have a quick look at the standings before I ask you, Hayden, who your driver of the day is. But here are the standings of Group A. That is the way you can also say A if you're bored at any point in your life or you just feel like mixing it up a little bit. Yas Heat are top of the table with 10 points. Williams are second with 9 points. They didn't race today, but they'll be back on the 8th of July. And what a matchup it is going to be. Williams taking on Yas Heat to see who will finish top and get automatic qualification. Or, wait a second, will 4 points be going to R8G in their match? Could they be going into the qualifier? I don't think it's mathematically possible unless you have 4 draws. Listen, we will speculate that more at the time. Hayden, driver of the day for you, who stood out?
James Baldwin has been really strong today. I've been really impressed with what he's done, but also Bianchilila to carry that Aston Martin team. I think he did a fantastic job today as well. So there's a lot of great drivers in this series. I'm going to go off the fence and go Bianchilila. OK,
well, listen, I'm going to be an absolute suck-up, but that's what you can do is you are the host. I think my driver of the day has been Isaac Gillison, who joins us right now. Isaac, I would have said that. Thank you very much, Isaac. I would have said that regardless.
That is horrendous brownie point.
Oh, get out of it. They want to talk about James Baldwin, Isaac, but I want to talk about you. What is it like to race for Yas Heat, and how happy are you with your performance today?
Yeah, it's a privilege to race for Yas Heat. Of course, you can see the team shirt as well, brand new, so very happy with that. It's pretty sweaty right now, but looking very good. And yeah, today was quite tough. James, Marco and I were at the Veloce HQ actually in London last week, and James and Marco won the Alpine Esports Championship yesterday even, so very rushed into this match day. Very happy with the 4 points, but definitely some pace to look for compared to some other teams.
I can't believe it, Isaac. We're in London. We're in London right now at the Gfinity Arena. How come you didn't come and say hi? Hayden was here. We had Nick Hamilton. What? Come on. I've taken back my driver of the day. So we know your pace. We know how good you are. It comes down to next week, in a week or so's time, on the 8th of July, against Williams. Have you watched any of their races? How confident do you feel going into that matchup? Oh,
yeah, definitely. Final week, I think, is for us is BMW, I'm pretty sure. But we're up against Williams for the overall group win. So we'll have to see what Williams will be doing in the final week. We are very confident against BMW, but we'll put in a lot more hours to make sure that we get a good result like today against them, and that we are more than ready for the finals.
Yeah, what I love about a driver is the one that can make you raise your game. You are exactly correct, Isaac. I'm looking at my notes right now. Yes, Williams versus R8G is going to be happening. And then, of course, you will have BMW. They've been very unfortunate that last season's champions in Season 2. So you feel very confident in that. You got your first 4-0 clean sweep today. Another one on the 8th of July?
Hopefully. The pace has been looking good past weeks. Gonna get a lot more hours in for the final matchup, and we are very confident.
Okay, and Abu Dhabi
last week.
Have you ever been to Abu Dhabi before? I mean, I don't want to give you.
I have not.
No, so this could be a
I
first.
have not, but yeah. So it's good motivation, definitely. Let's put it like that.
Okay, all right. Well, listen, Isaac Gillison, an absolute pleasure. My driver of the day. Can I just remind you again? Enjoy the celebrations. Lovely to chat to you, Isaac Gillison there for Yas Heat, getting another win, a 4-0 clean sweep. I feel cheap for what I've just said there. I feel a little bit dirty, but you know what I mean. He was a fantastic driver and being a brilliant wingman for James Baldwin. Let James Baldwin take the wins, and at the same time, you need to back up and make sure you defend and make sure you get the points. Hey, out of the whole day today, was the biggest surprise for you Aston Martin against Mercedes, George Morgan?
Yeah, I think for sure. I was impressed with what Aston Martin brought to the table early on, and I think obviously it was a big shame what happened towards the end. Obviously, I was hoping that they would come out and actually give Mercedes a solid fight towards the end. So we'll have to see how they bounce back in the future.
Bounce back ability, that's what we always talk about. George Morgan, an absolute pleasure to have you on the show today. Hayden Gillis, I'm loving the yellow. Absolutely beautiful. Listen, a big thank you, as I said, to George and Hayden for joining me here today. And of course, to all of you watching. So the playoff picture is looking brilliant. We'll see you back here on the 8th of July.